And bringing this up at the meeting. There will be if some people get out of off the topic, then it'll be ruled out of order at that point in time because again, it hasn't and wasn't submitted in the appropriate fashion at this point. If there is anything at the end that people need to discuss at this point in time, we may have an opportunity to get it as a discussion point so that we can see if there is some concerns at this point in time. So I'd like the executive to introduce themselves, and we'll start on the right as we go through all the way across the table and over to our left over there. And again, Joe, just one other note that VBN is doing our broadcast as well. It's going out across the internet on a global scale. And I do know that there are people that are out there that are watching it because word has come back to me. Dean Kennedy, who is the FCI person, he had to go into work today. Unfortunately, it's tax time. So he has been called in by his boss, and he's watching it live on VBN as well. Okay, so if we can start on our right side, and we'll get our introductions. Okay, so our first guest at this point in time will be Frank Nazo, the Bccfa.
Yeah, I will.
Frank who?
Frank Nazo.
Thank you for having me here today.
Oh, yeah,
As brief as possible. I just want
This is VBN.
I'll be as brief as possible. Just run through a quick 2019 highlights. First and foremost, the biggest highlight is that we hired an executive director, right? Which again, without having paid staff previously, all the onus was on volunteer staff, so we can shift stuff. Anyway, a couple things he's done. We're transitioning, obviously, for him to take over completely as the chief administrative officer, if you will, for the organization. A couple of things he's done already that directly affects the Bccfa members. He has applied for a Canada Summer Students Grant in the tune of about $5,000, which I believe is your approval. I applied for a hosting grant for your 2020 flag championship through the PSO, and that's, I believe, is $1,000. Esports Desk, we're getting a rebate from them this year that'll be applied directly to Bccfa functions, and that's for $2,500. You've also received newsletters, and in those newsletters, going to this group in this room, and those of you watching, I'm sure, with outlining the different activities that he's putting together. Most predominantly, the most one that's coming up really quick, he's doing a gaming application workshop. It'll likely be an online Zoom type of a conference call. And so please, if you're interested in that, he's got good reaction so far, lots of response. If you're interested, please check it out on that newsletter that all of you should have received. He's also just recently applied for a Google AdWords grant. That is. However, you're going to get about $10,000 of free advertising on Google. So these are all things that he's been working on since he's been installed as the executive director. The second highlight I want to point out is in July of 2019, we hosted the U16 Western Canada Cup in Kamloops, which was a great success. We were told it was the best one. The short history of that event was the best one that's ever been held. Big kudos to the Kamloops Minor Football Society, Community Football Society. They were incredible, and they're the ones that really put that together, so thank you. We continue to do safe contact clinics, NCCP clinics. 100 in the past year. That's dwindling because we're catching everybody. So as the years go on, more and more people are taking that course, and so we're almost caught up. So we should be doing 100 more people every year, just because that's basically how many more coaches around the province we'll be getting every year, approximately. Really quick, moving forward to 2020. What I'm about to talk about is going to be incredibly important. As you recall, we had a bit of an issue with insurance at the beginning of the year. I got the bigger picture. I went to the Football Canada meetings 2 weeks ago, and I kind of figured out what was going on, more of a clear picture of what was going on. Sport Canada has legislated safe sport, and every NSO, which is every Football Canada in our case, and every PSO, which is us, which translates to all you guys, we need to make implementations. We've been mandated to have a safe sport policy. Safe sport is basically 3 components. Number 1 is concussion, and everyone talks about concussion. We need to be able to track concussion from the time the kid is concussed, the athlete, is concussed, to the time he returns to play, or not to play, if you will. Okay? Through our insurance providers, and we've talked about this before, there's something called the Players Health app, which is a value-added service. This is a reporting mechanism. It's saved in the cloud. Register every darn kid in your organization with the Players Health app. If the kid gets injured, concussed particularly, put him in there, and there's a progress report. And every time there's any progress on his diagnosis or whatever he's been doing, or when he returns back to play, that's all entered in there. We need to have this documented from the time the kid's injured to the time he returns back to play. Okay? We already have the application, the app for it, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. The second component is we need an abuse hotline. Abuse, we're talking about sexual abuse type of incidents. Is where it's a third-party independent hotline where a parent or a kid can phone into and report any instance of abuse. At that point, we need to investigate that abuse. Okay, and there's different levels of investigation depending on what the type of or the severity of the abuse. I keep on using the word abuse, but everyone understands what I'm talking about. We, again, through the Players Health app, which comes with our insurers, there is an independent hotline it's called Players Protect. Okay, and if you go online, you'll find all the stuff through our insurance policy. So there is an independent hotline. We do have to find a third-party independent investigative service, and Football Canada is trying to find the best provider for that we can use nationwide. Everyone that is involved with dealing with people under 18 years old, under 19 in this province, under 19 years old in this province, which is everybody in this room, has to take an online course on top of it. And that it goes to the Safe Sport program, gives you all the components, etc. A lot of it is repeating what I just said. However, everyone has to take that, and everyone has to be registered through that, certified that they've taken this online course. Football Canada is working with a provider to bring that cost down to a negligible amount. It'll cost something, but hopefully it'll be a negligible amount by the time they're done. Right now, they were talking about $20, just so you know, to give you a heads up. And on top of all this, we need to appoint the PSO, us. We will appoint over the next year a safe sport officer who can keep track of everything I just talked about. And they will have to keep track of it, because if we don't keep track of it and we don't demonstrate that we keep in track of it, we're not going to get insurance next year, period. And if you recall, there was our insurers came back to us in December, January, and they wanted to put, it was a 75% increase in our premiums, and we're thinking you can't do that, obviously. And this is what it was all about, because in the 3 provinces so far, this has been legislated. Ontario's on the books. BC, I'll tell you up front, has no idea what they're doing yet. That's from what we understand. Sorry, that didn't sound right. The government knows what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing about this. Okay, let me rephrase that again. Anyway, so again, guys, say again? I'll just stop there. Yeah, I'll stop there. Again, guys, if nothing else, if everything I've talked about today, please understand the severity and how important this is going to be, because we're not playing next year unless we're in compliance. Yes.
The online course that you're making it up.
Apparently it'll be available before football season. This is going to be implemented fully for 2021. We have to show that we're ready for 2021. I'm going to suggest that we all go through it starting this year to make the transition a lot easier next year. As soon as that course is available, you will know. Everyone in this room will know. Okay, and that'll be through Keith's e-newsletter that goes to everyone in this room. And just this is a nice segue into our risk management. Again, I think we're going to get slapped in the head next year with insurance. And this is not just us, it's every sport is going through this right now. Keith has suggested in the last meeting, I can't remember where we were, somewhere in December, to form a subcommittee to look at our risk management policies and our insurers and what our different options are. And that'll be a push on you. He'll push it out to you folks. We need representation from this group, as with the other member groups as well. But you're the biggest group, so you should have more members because it's going to affect you the most by far. Okay, so and you'll get that information shortly as well. Community Novice Coach Certification. Again, if what our plan was, and it still continues to be, we're training your coaching coordinators from the various leagues, clubs, etc., and then you're going to train all your U14 coaches. Last year we had 37 learning facilitators trained, and we had 16 coaches trained after that. Guys, I'm going to tell you, if there's something happens on a U14 team and there's an insurance claim, we need to demonstrate where we're doing our due diligence and doing our best to comply with the mandate. Okay, so be warned. This year for we waived the requirement. We did the best we can last year for 2019 because of the lateness of the mandate coming in. 2020 is all your head coaches and 75% of all the other coaches. Okay. Again, there's now, as of now, because we had another learning facilitators course last week, I believe there's around 50 around the province and pretty evenly spread out from what I can see. Just a couple of things. We're hiring a technical director. No? You're shaking your head at me? No. Okay. Anyway, we're hiring a technical director because we're putting an academy-style, put that in quotations, an academy-style program for the long-term athletic development program and their high-performance pathway. We're having an academy-style program right around the province. So you have different regions that will have regional head coaches or regional coordinators, if you will, and they'll all start feeding up through the system. These will all be your players. Yes. Yes, we are going to a full-time technical director. We gave him, we offered the position to the current technical director, and he only does it part-time right now. And we're going to a full-time position. He doesn't want to give up his other job, and I don't blame him. He's got a sweet gig is what he does right now.
No, that's so then he's going to be phased out, and then there's a new person going to do the full-time job.
That's
and
correct.
He's not going to be there, correct?
He will likely be. He won't be in that position anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. There's other plans for him, I'll tell you that, but I won't get into details. Excuse me. So we should have that technical director in place by May the 1st, if everything goes the way it's based on our schedule that we have right now. A couple other things, just real quick. The U18 Canada Cup. This is the National U18 Championship. We are lucky enough to be hosting it this year at UBC in partnership with the VMFL. Thank you very much, wherever they are. Anyway, in partnership with the VMFL, this is the 8 provinces that are, everyone except for PEI Newfoundland, they just don't have enough members. So you have 8 provinces, the elite of the elite coming to Vancouver between July 18th and 25th at UBC. We're going to encourage everyone in here to bring your players down. Wear a jersey, and I'm sure we'll let you in for free. The players, right? So we're trying to get as much support as we can. It's a big stadium. I was going to say, and again, volunteers are always welcome for that. The other thing we're hosting, again, we're lucky enough the Western Canada Cup, which has the 4 Western provinces competing in Abbotsford, July 13th and 16th. Hopefully in partnership with the Bccfa, we'll talk eventually. Anyway, so we're trying to partner with the local leagues. Is what we're trying to do. Who've got some who know the areas better than we do. 2 last things. Bccpa AGM is next Sunday in this room. If you're interested in coming to the Bccpa AGM on March the 15th, please register online. It's on our website. And the last thing, before I thank you for all the volunteer work that all you people do, which is wonderful, Sport BC every year has President's Awards, and they recognize contributions to amateur sport in the different sports. And this year for amateur football, Sport BC is recognizing none other than Joe Galeska for his contribution to amateur sport. So thank you. Okay. Other than that, again, thank you. You know, we build the organization, Football and Volunteers, and thank you so much for all you do. Joe.
You hear all these rumors from Football Canada they're going to mandate when we have to stop tackle or what age group they don't want to. I even talked to Mullen at that thing at the Lions thing. He didn't even know. Okay. Is there a plan or a drop dead date for no tackle below 12 or 10 or whatever?
Yeah, it's not, and you know what I can do, because there's a competition review that was done in 2017, and it maps out everything. They're not going to eliminate tackle. I think under 10 they might be. Sorry, I don't know it off the top of my head. But the younger groups, what they're doing is going to go, you can progress from 6 to 9 to 12 over the years, right? You're going to progress from a smaller game to the larger game. But it'll be contact. By the way, again, we're going to start calling this contact, not tackle. Lisa, does that answer your question? I can send out that competition review to Kayla, and she can, or whoever, and they can distribute that.
As of 2022, they're saying U10 is dropping to 6-man football, and pardon? Contact, yes. U10 will be contact 6-man, and U12 and 14
Goes to 9. 6 and 9. 6 and 9. Right. So you got to memorize better than I do.
And that's by 2022.
Okay. Thank you.
It's on the public info website.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Hi, how are you?
Very good. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. Happy to be here.
When you talked about the coaches' clinics, and we talked about that the other night, can we explain how this works, how the money works, what you pay for, what you don't pay for?
What we pay for it?
Well, I need you to explain how the Bccfa is involved, how you're involved,
Sure.
how it works from start to finish.
Okay, so so all the NCCP courses that everyone takes, all your coaches take, they're Football Canada courses. We are the BCPFA, as the PSO, we're the Provincial Sporting Organization. We are mandated to deliver these courses. Okay, they must come through us. With that said, community football has a group of coaches. We predetermine dates ahead of time, and everyone's got that scheduled by now, I'm sure. We predetermine dates when we're holding these holding clinics, whatever the clinic might be. If there is a need, say Prince George is a good example. We're going next week, I believe, so we're scheduled one there. However, if they got another need in July because they got a half a dozen coaches or something that need safe contact, somehow we'll manage to do a special course just for them. And maybe Prince George is not the best example. On the island, the North Island, we'll have a course because you've got coaches that you didn't train earlier in the year, and you got an emergency basis, and you got a dozen coaches. We'll come and do that course. Give us notice, guys. Don't ask for the next weekend. Right? I mean, we have to plan that out. Of course, we have to have learning facilitators, etc. We invoice the Bccfa for that, and I think this is what you're getting at. Right? We invoice the Bccfa for that. Because you get special price and member price, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? And that's how that works. And I don't know how it works on your side.
Our big thing is the online.
Say? You pay, yeah.
Where are you? Can you explain that part of it? Like, because there's a course that we have to pay for online. Right? Okay, why? Why are we paying for that?
So this was a discussion that we had last year and a couple of years before, or last year when they came up with this novice course training. So the novice course, and this is a discussion that we've all had as well. The novice course training is like, I'm a facilitator. I can go and teach your courses. But in order for you to finish the novice course, you still have to go online and complete a portion, and it is paid. I believe it's $25. Can't remember.
It's $85 for making ethical decisions, which is
I'm not talking about making ethical decisions. I'm talking about the novice course. Right now.
U14 community novice course.
Yes, that one. And that was a paid one online. And that one was determined that it would be up to the associations to cover off that one if they chose to reimburse the course for it.
do they have to pay for what you're just said? Why do they have to pay for
That's
this?
the NCC, what do you, what?
What's it called again?
Making up.
$85.
Yeah.
So that should be a part of your NCCP training. When you go into MED, at least when I went into MED when I did it, I mean, granted, that was 10 years ago. I entered in my NCCP number, when I took the NCCP course, you're given a course code. You enter that course code into the MED, and it waives that fee. If you didn't take an NCCP course, then you have to pay for MED.
Gotcha.
So maybe they're getting charged because they're doing it backwards?
Possibly.
Love to look at that. See how coaches are doing it.
And one thing I do want to emphasize, when you're taking the community, when your learning facilitator within your club or within your league is giving you the community novice course, make sure you have to record who you've taught. Make sure we get a copy of it, because Football Canada is a little slow sometimes entering it into the, actually it's the Coaching Association in Canada. They're a little slow entering it into the locker. So as long as we have a record of it, we're happy. Everyone's happy. Who's Joe?
I was just going to say, Frank, where did this 6-man come from? I mean, just in the last weeks, now you're saying we're going to go 6, 9, and 12. Is 6-man football a given?
No, you have a choice. If I remember correctly, and I'm doing this from memory, Joe, so if I'm wrong, it's just my gray matter isn't. But you have a choice of doing 6 or 9 at the younger ages. I think you've got choices. You don't have to do 6, or you don't have to do 9. Right? But they're trying to avoid 12 at the younger, 12 men at the younger age.
So I took the ethical decision I had to pay for, but where would you get this course code? Because it wasn't in my locker. I put my locker number in.
Right.
So where would you
For
find your course code?
If you send an email to the technical director, he can find your locker number. As long as you've taken a course. As long as you've taken a course in the past couple of years, past 4 years, we would have your number.
We have, sorry,
Joe?
I was gonna say, there's
One glitch in that process, that you have to have taken a course from a sanctioned provider through the Bccfa. If you've taken a course outside of that, Bccfa will not recognize it, nor will the Bccpa. That means if you've dovetailed with a high school group that is not sanctioned by us, and as a result of that, it doesn't count anywhere. So you have to be careful, and people have emailed me all the time, can I take this course? I go, no, you can't take that course because it's not sanctioned. The reason it's not sanctioned, there are a number of issues that certain providers have with Football Canada. They will not recognize it. So we're not going to tell you to go spend money that we're not going to recognize.
We have coaches that has taken the required coaches through Football BC, and they have the numbers and everything else, but the online doesn't recognize that. So how do...
Talking the old PSO, not the new one.
Just 2 years ago.
Oh, 2 years, we should have that. If we should have, we'll have record of it.
They have their lockout, they go in there and go ahead.
I'm saying that if it was prior to the new association being formed, Football Canada has not been paid because the person that gave the course didn't pay them, so they've got those numbers and they're not entering them in.
Some of them we cleared up, in fairness to the old organization. Some of them we did clear up because we had to find the people to figure out who they were, more than anything else. Right? So some of them we cleared up. But our technical director will have numbers of anyone that's taken a course in BC through us. And you have to take them through us if you want to get any credit for it. So anyone, yeah, name the coach, and we'll, if you send an email to the technical director, and his contact is on the website as well. Just make the inquiry. We'll find him.
Can I say something?
Sure.
What I tell my coaches when they go to these programs, what I say to the coaches when they go to these programs is when they sign in, take a picture of the sign-in sheet with your name on it, right? Because that way they have the proof that they went to the program itself. You know, it's paperwork. And like Frank said, they're volunteers as well here. I know Football Canada gets paid, but they got a backlog of all the provinces. So if you're taking a safe contact course in June, it may not show up in your locker by September. So you want to have that proof if anybody comes back and questions you. So everybody's got a camera, right? Take a picture, and that way you have proof that you were at that course.
Like I say, internally, we're pretty good.
Just for our viewers, if you have a question. Could you repeat the question?
Sure.
And then we can go forward. Thank you.
So I took the facilitators course, like I'm working on that for my club. I just want to make sure I get to it right. So if I've got a new coach, to not have to pay, because right now my club, we reimburse that making ethical decisions. Like it comes up, if a new coach goes and takes those 2 online courses. So if I teach this facilitators course, and we do the paperwork, and then they do the making ethical decision, that fee, there will be a code to waive that fee, so my club won't have to pay that 85, is that what we're saying here? I'm not sure, because that's, what he's asking about is we pay $85, I mean, as club members, for every time they coach. Right now, if I got a new coach, bring flag, and I go take making headway, making ethical decisions, he's gonna get charged $85, I reimburse him for it. What we're asking, is there any way to reduce that cost or have that fee covered so we're not reimbursing it, or? Like, so if I teach the facilitators course, do we have is there something now that we have a code to not pay that 85 is what we're asking? Is that the order I should be doing it in? Sorry.
No, it's a complicated question. So basically, is the making ethical,
to best save my club money.
so to summarize it, the making ethical decisions course fee, is it waived after you take the community novice coaches course?
Yeah.
That's what you're asking. I don't know. How's that? Draw that. I'll find out. I will find out for you, though, because according to Lisa, you think it is waived, as long as you're in there. Let me find out, though. I think that's a fair question, and I will get back to you.
But so the best case to have that happen would be to have them do the novice training first before they do the because there's no way it's going to be waived before that, but there might be a chance it's waived if they do the other course.
I'll find out, and again, that's a great question, because this is the first I heard of it, actually.
Frank, since this is a mandatory requirement and spring flag is coming on within weeks.
Yes.
And is there any way the system can be tweaked so that when these coaches go and do the make an ethical decision online,
Right.
that this fee could be waived?
Again, that's a Football Canada, it's not us, it's Football
Can
Canada.
you work with Football Canada?
I
Because you are asking that as a
can.
mandatory requirement.
Yes, but if,
And we have funding for training coaches.
Yes.
Can we
Yeah.
tweak the system so if an association registers a coach with your body,
right,
then you should be able to tweak the system so this coach can go and take this online course without having to pay for it.
again, the question was, can we tweak the system in order to waive the making ethical decisions online fee? That's your question. Again, I'll look into it, I'll do the best I can, as
Please, I
quick
think
as
it's
I can.
important, it's time sensitive as well.
Your U14 coaches, again, they have to take this course prior, their course, community novice course, prior to the spring flag. So they should be okay. They should be okay. So but it's the rest of the above 14 years old is what we need to find out specifically.
And we've also got our spring contact league starting in 2 weeks. So
Right. Okay.
if you could let us know, would be great.
Sure. I'll do the best I can as quick as I can.
So you'll try to work with Football Canada
Yeah,
to tweak the
I'll
system?
make the inquiries so they get in front of them.
Okay, so when can we expect this response from you?
I sure hope in about 3-4 days would be great.
And you will communicate with the whole body?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions for
Sure.
Frank?
Yes.
Frank, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we have Tyler Gammon here from the BC Lions. Tyler? We have distributed your report, so if you, just to let you know about that, Tyler. So welcome today to the Bccfa AGM.
Thank you. So first off the top, I just want to talk about the Orange Helmet Awards. Show of hands, who is attending the dinner here coming up March 20th? Okay, a few hands, okay. If you weren't aware, it is Friday, March 20th. So last year, we had it in April. Drew Bledsoe was the special guest. We had raised $27,500 in net proceeds towards amateur football. I'm not sure how that's split up. That's more of a Jamie question. Sorry, I don't have that information for you. Moving on, we'll talk about 50-50. So last year we had a couple of draws that were, what's the word? They were seeded. They were guaranteed. Yeah. So there was a couple big prize pools. I think it was the biggest 50-50 net in quite a while. We were able to raise $134,000 from 50-50 last year, and this year we're hoping to get another guaranteed or two jackpots at the games. Let's talk about just what we do with football development programs. So punt, pass, and kick. I'm sure a lot of you are aware, a lot of you here are presidents that book through me. We went to 16 associations last year, so 16 out of 17. Hope to do the same. This year, amateur football night is going to be on September 26th against Saskatchewan. So it's about a week earlier than it usually is. We usually try and do it the first week of October, but where our schedule lines up this year, it doesn't quite fit that way. So when I do book that with everyone here, for those that are booking through me, just keep in mind that we have kind of 1 week less to do it. So try and get more done in the summer. Usually really full in September. Everyone wants September. We had 1,300 kids test approximately through all our visits. The number is going down a little bit every year, as you know, with registration going down. But I think all the kids enjoy it. I think it's a highlight of practice when we come. Play with the pros. So this year, when Play with the Pros, we do a skills clinic, non-contact for kids 6 to 12. We host 2. We'll have one at our Fan Fest in Kamloops during training camp. That's going to be Saturday, May 25th. And we're going to have one in Surrey. I think we actually set the date yesterday. It's going to be Saturday, June 20th in Surrey. For those of you who don't know what that is and want to get your kids involved, you can ask me about it. We have about 200 kids come out to each one, so there's about 350 to 400 kids total that get to go through this experience, and we have players. The one in Surrey, yes. Yeah.
How much of that 134,000 was dispersed throughout the associations?
For 50-50?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think.
Just emailed it to you, to your inbox. Oh, is it? Okay.
Okay, I think it's mostly for like 90% or 80% is Bccfa, and the rest I don't know again how.
When you finish, I'll sort of.
Thank you, appreciate it. Jamie keeps a lot of information to himself, but I'm trying my best here. Moving on. So and then we again do community football nights. We visited about 8, 9. We did 10 associations last year. The week of our amateur football night, we'll bring 2 players out for about an hour or so, and that's always a fun time for the kids. And we'll visit all the teams. If anyone new to that is unaware, but I think most everyone here in this room has seen it. That works at the club level. Yes. That's a great question. I think when it comes to expanding outside Lower Mainland, it's cost prohibitive. I know we have people come from the island to come do Play with the Pros, but I think the resources that we don't have the resources to go out further than Chilliwack, let's say. But there hasn't been any plans to go beyond to the island and do that, unfortunately. Flag football, so 2019, we had representatives at most of the jamborees going on from April through June. The plan is to continue that this year. For the championships in Kelowna, usually it does fall on our weekend where we are in Kamloops with training camp, or we have a preseason game. This year it's not the case according to the planners, so we have a schedule that allows us to have a larger presence in Kelowna. I'm not sure what that is right now, but more details will follow as we get closer to that. Amateur football ticket initiative. So for those of you who don't know, our home opener, June 27th, kids 17 and under are going to get in the stadium for free. So they have free tickets for everyone 17 and under. And for the remaining 8 games, everyone 17 under, tickets are just $10. So, make sure if you can communicate that on to everyone at your club, that'd be appreciated. For Salute to Amateur Football Night on the 26th, the rebate program is still going to happen. So for adult tickets that are purchased, for the first 49 tickets, $5 goes back to your club, and if any tickets 50 and above are purchased, each ticket from that point, it's $10 goes back to your club. So for those, I think lots of clubs have taken advantage of that. Last year and the year before, I think, were the 2 years we've done it. So if you don't know about that, good opportunity to help raise funds for your club. And last but not least, there's a dedicated account rep for every club here. So I'm not sure what that is, but you do have someone. If you have any questions, you can phone over, and we'll have someone get back to you and introduce themselves if they have not already. That's all I have for my report. Yes, questions? Yeah, Matt.
The 17 and under free ticket,
Yeah.
that's within an adult purchase, is it not? Or
It isn't necessarily like one kid per one adult. It could be 10 kids and one adult.
Okay, perfect, so if I can qualify.
Yeah, that's
my team and
now that's as far as I understand, because we did the $10 last year, and it was for kids 12 and under, and I think it was pulling up with the team.
yeah.
I can email you. I can email you and confirm that.
Just, so I want to send it out to the club, but I
Yeah.
want to make sure that I have one-on-one. Or
For sure.
It's going to be like one parent, 4 kids, or a coach and a team.
Let me email you that so you can.
Can you email all of them?
Yeah. Who should send it to Kayla?
Kayla and Shannon.
Send it to Kayla. Yeah, I'll do that.
Your full report, so
Yeah,
we have all the changes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to be last.
you got it. Yeah, I can do that.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I have 3 quick things.
Okay.
Done.
You can time me, I don't care. So, I don't know if I missed this, punt, pass, and kicks, is going this year for sure? Or no?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Rumor had it wasn't. That was one.
Was that from your meeting in December?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Jamie told me, I guess he had a discussion, like, was that something you want to continue? But as far as I know, it is,
Okay.
unless something changes, but in proceeding,
Okay.
that is going on.
Because in here, and the next one for the flag football, that says the refs come out to all the jamborees
Yes.
this season. Well, usually you guys just have a table being manned and that's it. So we rarely get players to come out and walk the fields and say hi, stuff like that.
Like BC Lions players?
So, which would be pretty cool. Again, it's off season.
Yeah.
They're around. So even if you're not like, because I know Lucas on staff right now, even if he came out, because everyone still knows him.
Yeah.
So something like that would be really cool. Don't get me wrong, manning the table is fine, it's great, but to have a couple players walk around the jamborees would be super cool.
Okay, I can take that back. Yeah.
Can I fill this one?
Sure.
I talked to Jamie about it actually on Tuesday night, and he said, I think because you guys had a Thursday night game that week, that they're gonna come up.
I'm talking about the 6 jamborees.
Oh,
Talking about the off-season ones.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was a flag.
Which one were you talking about?
Florida more.
Kelowna, oh, okay, the week of,
Yeah.
gotcha, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So that week, I don't think you guys had a preseason game on Thursday, so he said he was gonna have more presence out there.
I don't think the Lions have any, according to that meeting with Jamie and Rick, the president of the Lions, 3 games are Fridays and 6 are Saturdays.
We have a Thursday, we do have one Thursday game,
Preseason.
but preseason you're talking about the Kelowna championship.
My last one was, because Murray brought this up, to play with the pros over to the island.
Yes.
Again, there's a cost, but it wouldn't hurt to canvass your players to say, listen, you know, we're not gonna pay you, we'll pay your ferry costs and that's it, but we need your time volunteered. Like, can we think outside the box like that? Because Murray's absolutely right. The guys on the Rock get forgotten all the time. Same with the North too, right? So, because you guys go to the interior, you hang out in the lower mainland, but these two distant ones always get forgotten. We gotta remember it's the BC Lions, not Vancouver Lions.
Yeah,
No
absolutely.
disrespect there.
No, yeah, it's, I honestly, it's tough doing it in Surrey.
I got it.
Like, going to, places where the draft, taking 20 players with us is, we just don't have the funding to do it. That's just the reality right now.
Cindy, yes, a quick comment.
It's my understanding that the BC Lions, the Bccfa, and the Bccfa are doing something on the island in the News Bay coming up shortly. Is that not correct?
Correct.
Okay.
BC Lions alumni, it's not the Lions themselves, it's still alumni.
Okay, just a clarification then.
And I'll conclude, thank you very much for your presentation. And again, I have spoken about this more times than anybody can imagine, because the June Flag Championship is the largest football event in Canada. We had over 2,000 players, we had over 4,000 players. That's the potential of 6,000 ticket holders, and we have 0 people. And again, the pressure is on now, because the Lions keep asking us to help. We're helping. We brought 6,000 people to one venue for them to have a presence at. You have cheerleaders, there are players that are injured, there are players that aren't going to the exhibition game. You know, there's a number of people to drive 1 hour to Kelowna to have a presence for a fan base that's important because they want to be BC Lions. They want to go to the game. But again, it's a two-way street I love. And I've been after this drum and beating it time after time after time. We're doing everything we can to help the Lions be successful. And this is our showcase event, both boys and girls and parents in one spot. It would just behoove them to have as many people as they can scrounge up to get to this event. And again, I have spoken to a number of people on this. In order to make money, you have to spend a few bucks. A hotel and a meal, you know, to get a people's presence to help us out, to help you out, I think is a real important thing. Thank you. Now, I wasn't trying to, you know, create anything, but trying to create an enthusiasm for, hey, we're working hard to help the Lions out and host this huge event, and we need to see them there. Two other things that, I'll just grab your microphone now. Two other things I'm going to help you out with, because every year the Bccfa has to deal with these issues. And again, it's important that the membership does ask. And the first one is on the funding from the Orange Helmet Dinner. That gets distributed to the shareholders at this point in time. It's the Lions event. They distribute the money how they wish. The Bccfa gets a share, because when we were sitting down at the table, we felt on behalf of our members, instead of giving every player 50 cents, that we could do a better job with the funding, whether it's, you know, getting out into the public, whether it's doing clinics, whether it's doing stuff to keep the costs down for the members. The second part is, again, having sat on the group, because I'm older than dirt, that negotiated the deal with the Lions on 50-50, because remember, the Lions can't own 50-50, that was a BCFC ownership, because the Lions are for profit, BCFC is non-profit. So they owned it. The deal worked out was that in order for the BCFC to function, they had to get a certain percentage to cover off a number of their costs. At that time, when they were dealing with, I'll just say it again, these figures aren't going to be exact, the percentages may slightly differ, but they're going to end up getting about $100,000 at that point in time. That's not, it'll drop down to this because the money's less. It was a percentage. So that covered off a whole bunch of costs for the BCFC so they could operate. Then what happened is that everybody gets a percentage. It came to us. Then it was arguing, oh, well, is a bigger club gonna get more than a smaller club? Is this gonna happen? Is that gonna happen? Well, what was the dollars? Okay, and if you're saying, you say you get, $3,500 or whatever it is divided by all the kids who are playing, every kid gets $1. How is that gonna help us? It doesn't, so we turn around and say, okay, let us use it, and then we hold down certain costs that we passed on to membership, so it becomes less for you to pay, whether it's the championship or this, so you see all the costs and they're coming down. So we held those costs, for a long period of time, and that's how the money works. So it's not saying that, we get this large amount of money, it's whatever the sheriff tells us. Okay, and we get a portion, and just let you know that right now, currently, is ourselves, Bccfa, the high school, the UBC,
Split, SFU, UBC split.
UBC SFU split, okay, the funds that are derived up. So at the end of the day, even though the number that they flash up on the sign looks big, it really isn't that big once you take off all the shares that originally go out, because don't forget, the Lions also get a cost share that they have to use for operating costs, so that comes out of it. BCFC comes out of it, then whatever's remaining is divided up between their 4 groups. Frank?
And again, you started this way in the 80s, I would imagine.
Yeah, when Bobby Ack was still alive.
Because over the years, because I was involved in the negotiation for the past 25 years and renewing that 50-50 agreement with the Lions. The reason the BCFC was, just quick history, it was their license and operating at the Lions games. Eventually, the Lions took it in-house and it's run by the Employees Committee. There's a fancy name for it. It's a nonprofit group within the Lions that they're able to run the 50-50. But the BCFC still gets the Lions share. Anyway, they get the biggest share because, as Joe said, to operate the league, because every single player in the BCFC is a territorial protection of the Lions. So in order to have that group of 450 kids, athletes in junior football keep playing, and then they are the property of the BC Lions. They can't get drafted, they can't do anything. They have to get waived. If they want to play anywhere else besides the Lions, they have to get waived by the Lions. These are junior players we're talking about.
Yeah.
So that's why it's incumbent upon the Lions to keep that alive. And as Joe said, that's how much basic operating costs. It's not even any more basic operating costs. But anyway, that chunk of money goes to BCFC to keep them alive, basically, to keep the BC Lions junior players, territorial protections alive.
And the other part of that was a real benefit to the BCFC, because they had to get people to sell tickets at the games, etc. So now it's kind of electronic, it's out of their hands, so now it's a more uniform thing, so therefore there's a steadier stream of finances at this point in time. Okay, hopefully I've answered all your questions.
More of a statement than a question, but I mean, when it comes to the 50-50 and when you're presenting the Lions information to the club, letting them know that 50-50 comes back, that part of the 50-50 comes back to us, helps make 50-50 sales, which then increases the amount that we see back as well. So it's a good marketing play.
And it's nice to win once in a while, too. Okay, now if I've got our Farrell Harris here from the Universe, who's just going to make a short presentation.
Thank you. Should I grab that? Okay, well, thank you very much for the invite and all the support that the mates have given to the Universe Sports Group over the years. We appreciate that. I've put our early booking program on everybody's desk. So to go through that very quickly, we've come up with some show specials for your association. Buy 3 helmets, get 1 free. That's the helmets that we have in stock. And that's including the mask. We also have the same for shoulder pads, buy 3, get 1 free. And again, in stock. Shut is making a number of changes with their helmet to be compatible with the VTC, the Virginia Tech study. even though the helmets that we have in stock still are rate very high on that study. The new helmets for 2020 are even higher. We don't have stock of those yet. We want to go through our 2019 inventory. So we've come up with those special prices. And we do have a fair amount of helmets in stock in the basic colors, white and black and navy and so on. So there's that there. We also have our flag football program. We have the official flags, so they're $3 a pair. We have those in stock. And then we have the t-shirt program, t-shirt short with a one-color logo. You'll see the pricing there. We've got a couple different price packages, $30 and $32 there. We also, in that program, we have special pricing on the footballs, so on the Wilson footballs, the K2, the TDJ, the TDY, and the TDS. So they're all at $21.50 while our inventory lasts. Yes?
Sorry, Rules Queen, I'm having a bit of a moment here. When you look at your equipment packages that are on the bottom of the flag sheet, please do not read the words. They are wrong. A K2 is not a Pee Wee ball. A K2 is a U10 Atom ball. So read it that way up. So we're here where it says Pee Wee Junior U Senior, that is actually Atom, Pee Wee, Junior Bantam, and then Bantam and Midget. Okay, so on the bottom of your sheet, the wording is incorrect. Look at your ball sizes. It is in the BCCFA handbook on page 2. Do not order the wrong size balls. Thank you. That's all.
The Pee Wee ball is for what page?
Pee Wee is U10, which is Atom.
Okay.
Or what you have listed as Pee Wee, sorry, the K2. TDJ is Pee Wee, which is U12.
Okay.
TDY is Junior Bantam, which is U14.
Okay.
And your TDS is your Bantam and Midget, which is U16 and U18.
We'll have that fixed for next year.
Thanks.
But that's on the Wilson ball, that's on each of those balls, it says senior, U, junior. We just need to know what it applies to us. I mean, unless you call Wilson and get them to change it, you can't really change that.
Correct.
Yeah.
But we can change for next year, we'll change the wording so that we have that right for you. So they're $21.50 while supplies last, and what I told we had previous. Yes, sir.
Just one quick question, it's on the soft-shelled helmets.
Yes.
There is no life expectancy on those, correct? That you can have it and play with it for 10 or 12 years, it doesn't really matter?
Correct.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Now, there are two different ones. We have the standard model, which is just your basic foam, and then the Pro model has that D30 foam that, I think, if you haven't heard of it, it's, unfortunately I don't have the test kit with me, but it's a very dense foam. It distributes the glow. Some of the helmets have that in there, so it's dispersing the glow that way. So they're out of the U.S., and that's the most popular soft shell helmet available on the market. Okay, so yeah, there's just a couple specials that we have on right now. We also, in this program, we have our uniforms, our own sublimated style uniform called KB gear. Been very popular for us. We've got what we call a starter jersey, so for the younger kids, you're in that $45 range, all printed. And then we move up into a standard, which has a mesh, lots of different patterns available, and we're at $58.50. Then we go into, this is the varsity one, which is going to be around the $65 range. It has more of a mesh look to it. Then we get into the Pro. So it's got mesh and a solid material on the bottom, and then through the back, all printed. You're at $71.50, and then the highest end jersey is the D1 It's a knockoff of the Oregon style, and we're looking at $71.50 for that also. So this has been a very popular jersey for us. Russell Athletic has made a comeback into the football market. Really quick, Russell sold the rights to a company in the U.S. to distribute their product and use their name. So the Blitz and the 2-minute drill programs for football that have been around for years, that's back in now. Lots of different colors available. We've missed 1 or 2 windows for pricing, but if you do have Russell jerseys and you want to fill in, we're able to do that for you.
Sorry, one more question.
Yes.
Are they going to be producing the football, Spalding football?
No, Spalding football is basically, yeah, I don't see that ever coming up. Players and coaches gear, if you're looking for hoods or tees, pants, shorts, that type of thing. We've got Russell, we have our own line called KV, we've got ATC, Adidas, Under Armour, which are the 2 big brands. So we've got a lot of choices out there for you. And on our website, thehooniverse.com, you go there and all the catalogs and all the brands will come up. And there's discounts available off everything. It just depends on what brand you're looking at. We have integrated girdles that are around $27, $28 for youth and adults. Mouth guards, we have a special on the tackle wheels. It says, the promo in here said ends January 31st. We've extended that to March 31st while inventory lasts. Also, step over bags, we have that too. We've got, if you want to step up your flag instead of going to a t-shirt, we have flag jerseys that you can order and have those printed in the $30, $35 range. And then we'll just go really back to the helmets, and I'll just show them really quickly. The F7 is Schutt's highest end helmet. Okay, you're looking in the neighborhood of a retail price of close to $800. If you buy 12 or more, it does get down. It's more an individual purchase, not a team or association, but it's a very well-constructed helmet and very popular. Good protection on that. Then we get into the Air XP. This is the helmet that we have in stock right now. Schutt is changing this a little bit. They're going to be calling it Air XP Q10, and that is this one here. They've changed the insides of the helmet to meet the Virginia Tech standards, even higher than what I was mentioning before, but it's a little higher in price, around $450 in that neighborhood. And then we've got the Vengeance. They've got a couple different models. This is the Vengeance Pro. This is the one we did for UBC last year, and we're in the neighborhood of what we have in stock is around $300 mask what we have in stock, and then the new one coming out is around $350. Shoulder pads, you've got, that's in the program also. This is the Varsity Flex 4.0. It's around $150. Okay, lots of different sizes available. It's an all-purpose pad. And then the next one, we have the XBHD, and you're around $180, and that comes all-purpose or skill or quarterback receiver. We love those two. That's just a quick overview of what we've got. Anybody have any questions at all? Or? Yes?
Just to let everybody know, when we have a break, you can talk to Barry. He's going to stay around for the break, etc. during that period of time while we get something to eat, etc. So if you have a specific personal question for your club, you can deal with that at that point in time.
For the swag part, so minimum 24, I think it said?
On some things, it's minimum 24.
To get that
but
cost?
To get that cost, it's not much more. Minimum is 12 for us for printing or embroidery. So it's not that much additional price. It's a bit lower than that.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So we have our own, we're in South Surrey. The warehouse is full of inventory. We have our own plant for embroidery in South Surrey.
Right, cool.
Okay.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to let the membership know as well, BCCFA has a policy on helmets. Okay, because we had to make the policy in order for a number of things. It's 10 years. Our rule is certification after 5, then it's 2 and 2. So that means at the end of your 10th year is done.
I forgot, can I speak really quick on that?
Yes.
So yes, that, for a varsity helmet has a 10-year shelf life. A youth helmet has 8-year shelf life. The warranty is 5 years for varsity, 3 years for youth. Down in the US, they recommend that the helmet is sent back every 2 years, okay, for reconditioning. That's what they tell us in the US.
Yeah, when I checked with Moxie itself, the reason we went to that policy, they said we had to have a policy. They said this is your umbrella, your organization is the one that sets it down. We felt it was fairest to everybody to go 5, 2, and 2. That way you get 9 years out of it if you chose to go that route.
And really quickly, you're looking at about 12 weeks delivery on reconditioning.
Thank you, Barry.
What's your cost for the reconditioning? What's it cost to get a helmet reconditioned?
The start price is about $50, and then plus parts. It's hard to exactly tell you how much parts are in there. Shut helmet, we ask you to take the mask, the job pads off, and there's rarely any parts. When it gets to Riddell, then you've got the air bladders in there that can get expensive. Okay, thank you. Thanks.
And the last thing on shoulder pads, there is no life term on shoulder pads anywhere. So ultimately, at the end of the day, when you buy a pair of pads, they can be used for a ton of years. Okay, that's the BCCFA's point of view, just to make sure that you know when you're spending dollars, what they can be used for, and if somebody says something else, etc. That means the onus is on our clubs to go through their helmets and check out when the date was that you purchased them on the shelf. That determines their start and end of their life expectancy. Okay, now we're up to issues and concerns for the minutes of April 2019 to February 2020. That's on page 7. Now, I believe these were distributed ahead of time.
They're on our website as per our mandate a few years ago.
We're shared.
But they are on our website.
Where's that from? The minutes are on the website, and the complete package is in front of you today. Now, the minutes that we're concerned about are the AGM minutes from last year, which we have to adopt, which comes under number 5, which starts on page 27. There was an addendum to the minutes based on the financials of last year that the BCCFA went back, redid the budget as the membership requested. That was sent out to the membership for approval. It came back approved, and as a result, we moved forward to that. And you would note that in this year's financials, those issues that were brought up at last year's statement have been corrected and added to 2019 and 2020 going forward. So if we could have a proposal to adopt the minutes from 2019. If we could have a motion, Kevin, the seconder. Dave. Get that, Kevin? Thank you. Dave Rooney is correct. Any discussion? There's no discussion. I'd like to call the question. All those in favor? Okay, opposed? Abstentions? Carried. Reports. My report, okay, it's in the booklet, page 31. At this point in time, I'd like to take a couple minutes. Hopefully I can keep it to that, as I've been going to run on just slightly. Now.
Clear vision.
No, that's not starting out with clear vision. Okay, the issue that we're dealing with in 2020, I was just, trying to put it together. I've been involved in football now since, the 80s, the 90s, 2000, 2010, now 2020. It's 5 decades. We're going into my 5th decade being involved with football. And 2020 is really a nice year to start with, because hopefully it gives us a better vision on what are we supposed to be doing. What is our job? Our job is to grow football. It doesn't matter what type of football. As football is football. Any football is good football. Some of us may have a belief that it should only be this. I understand that. Some of us should have a belief that it should be that. I understand that. But why can't it be everything? Because in order to meet the needs of young people today, I keep looking at one of the most successful thing that we do. There's none other. The flag football event is the most successful thing we do. And as a result of that, why are people constantly coming out to flag? Small roster, lots of game time, everybody's happy. That's the progression that we have to look at. The game's changed. The game changed since I played. I mean, if you didn't get a concussion, you weren't playing hard enough. They had smelling salts on the sidelines. Head slaps were illegal. When you guys getting blown out of your mouth, it was all fine. The game's changed. I think it's a better game today. Kids are now being able to show their athleticism with our game, and as a result, the whole thing has changed. The dynamics changed. The excitement's changed. And yesterday isn't today. As much as we want to say, yesterday was great, as I explained to my daughter, yesterday wasn't that great. I worked for $1 an hour in the sawmill stacking lumber. In order to pay my tuition at UBC, I'd worked 500 hours, cost me $500, right? She went to the University of Alberta. Cost her $3,000. She was making over $10 an hour. She only had worked 300 hours. I'm going, yesterday wasn't that great. Today's better. I think the future of football is better if we embrace the fact that the mandate of the Bccfa is to grow football, and that's our future. Because I don't want to come back at the end of this decade and there's only one person sitting out there because football doesn't exist. Why it doesn't exist? And that's the question we have to go forward. The Bccfa and clubs have to be inclusive, not exclusive. Why do you want people operating outside of football? I'll give you 2 examples. North Shore Football League used to be the old GSL. They operate out there. There are a group of kids there, but there's nothing that anybody in this room, including me, or the Bccfa president, can do about it. They operate out there. Do we know anything about them? What are about their coaching standards? Do they have the proper insurance? What is going on in that association? They can't participate in anything we do because they're not members. And of course, high school, they operate out there. They're not a member of the Bccfa, nor Football Canada. And they go around telling everybody that they're using our rules against us, but they don't exist. As far as we're concerned, high school does not exist. But we can't do anything about it. So what happens is, as we're going forward, and there's been issues, and I've heard lots of things that come across my desk about sick man football. Six-man football is gonna be a savior for football. Why? You can play with 9 guys. For places like Williams Lake, you know, Penticton, what about smaller communities? What about smaller organizations in there that can't field 30 kids or 25? Well, what happens if you've got 30 kids in your thing and you want to keep your roster at 20 for 9-man football? Now you got a 6-man team. 6-man football is a good thing. We have to embrace it. Do we want people working outside our organization or inside? That's the question I have to continually ask ourselves. And yes, there's been a movement forward where a gentleman has gone out and started a league. Bccfa can't do anything about the league. Why? Our Constitution says we don't cover leagues. That's what the membership wanted. Your organizations can't do anything about that either. Why? You can only control your club. You have no choice of whether, you know, Billy Joe, Bob, Mary Sue goes out and forms a league. Do they want it inside or outside? Do they want it as part of our organization or not? Do we want those kids involved in all the benefits of Bccfa, the provincial body, and Football Canada? That becomes the question we have to ask ourselves. Because again, there's nothing that we can do. Our only job for me and you is, I want to be inclusive. And again, I've been down the road, as I emphasized earlier, with 9-man football, because it took me a long time to get people to think about it and buy it in. Now, there's lots of kids playing. When I started Flag, 2014s, everybody told me, failure, 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 failure. And not 215 teams registered?
Last year, 210.
210? Over 2,000 kids playing?
Over 2,000, well over.
It's a concept of how do we go to the next generation? And I understand that. And we're trying to be progressive, because remember, it's better to be ahead of the curve than trying to catch up. And how do we have one more thing? Because remember, if something goes away, I've been a believer that we want to replace it with something. What's the thing that we have to replace it with? I'd ask the membership, what do we want to replace it with? We don't have 12-man football for bantam and midget. What are we going to replace it with? Because remember, when I first started, there was one person on the board. I went out for lunch, and next thing you know, I was the guy. Came back, and we only had 12-man football. Then we had 12-man football, 9-man football, flag football. We had 15 champions. And I don't know if you know, but in the last 5 years, we've had national champions in flag football at the U18 and U16 level. That's because all of you and all your organizations did a fantastic job and going out and getting all the kids playing. And I think it's exciting. It's great. Okay, basically, so at the end of my statement, we really have to put everything aside and start to look at how inclusive can we be and how do we take the next step so that in 2030, we're healthier than we are now. Okay? Thank you very much. Next on the list, Vice President.
Questions?
Questions, go ahead.
Yeah. Your Kelowna, 2,000 kids. How many of them are from Prince George, the interior, Penticton? 200? Maybe?
Well, Prince George, we had 60 for flag.
How much?
60.
60?
60. There's over 300 from Kelowna itself.
Okay.
There was kids from Salmon, I'm just saying.
That leaves 1,500.
Yeah.
From the lower mainland and the island.
Not the island.
No? Nobody from the island? Okay, 1,500 from the lower mainland. And we're concerned about getting 6-man football in the areas where we don't have any. I would think that the big problem for us, if we're having 1,500 kids playing flag, is make sure we can transition them into tackle. That, to me, would be a bigger challenge and a better result. And I've been around as long as you, Joe. I know back to 1970, so.
And the only thing that I can say is anecdotally, there are clubs and organizations that have transitioned those kids. Because I know a few of those clubs that were having difficulty fielding a single team at the Pee Wee level, just one team. They were working on maybe two. But because they got flag involved and have become a very prosperous flag tournament by having, and prosperous I mean lots of kids playing, they now have teams at all levels. So they've made a transition. And the issue now comes is, what are the things that clubs do to offer the transition? And one of the things, and I'm just using this is because I've looked at the numbers and I see the numbers, is that to have six-man football, because you've got 9 guys on your team, that's what we like to see the numbers at. You play offense, you play defense, you have to play both in the same game, you're getting lots of game time. The transition from flag to that is easy. The transition from flag to on the bench forever is very difficult. And that's part of the new issue about football. It has nothing to do with big kids now, they want to play. They said, I can go sit at home. So that's the part of the transition. But 9-9 football, we've seen the transition, smaller rosters, more game time, they're happier, they're playing. That becomes, I think, the vision that I see that helps clubs out, because that transitional point is better. It's a faster game, it's going to feel.
So, I'm not opposed to 6-man thing, but instead of 6-man, you have a 9-man roster, then we go to the coach's clinics and learn safety, safety, safety. So if you have kids playing both ways all game long, you're kind of going against safety.
Well, to mitigate that, of course, the field is smaller. You can play, for example, you would have 2 games going on a Canadian football field because they play weight class. And actually that field refuses to be a bit too wide and too long. But what happens is that because the games are also shorter, you're still meeting the qualifications that they say that are in there. But the kids are on and they're playing. And again, for the U10, U12, U14, it's not like, we're 22, 23 years old and going out, with 280-pound bodies and pounding each other. But it's the game is played all over the States and in Canada, and there's lots of success, and it's growing hugely in all the communities and places where they've lost football. They can find 9 kids. Like, for example, East Penticton used to have football. Joe would remember this, is that now they told me, yeah, we can get 9 kids, but they can't get 20 kids. Yes,
more of a statement. What the clubs are concerned about now with the 6-man is they're having enough issues getting kids to play football, and now they got more competition out in the world. And when people are telling me about this, it's for the rural communities, well, it's not, because I've talked to the source, and the source is going Lower Mainland. So, I understand the Bccfa can't do anything, that's why it's a statement, not a question. But everyone in this room and on this council need to realize these guys are having a hell of a time as it is, and then another roadblock for them. And it's getting frustrating.
Well, there's no bigger roadblock than starting 12-man tackle in the spring, going head-to-head with flag football. Everybody thought that was okay, so they voted it in. So the statement I'm making is, you can't cherry pick. Either open the door, or you don't.
I think what it comes down to is, we are our own roadblocks when it comes to football. And I listened to what Joe's saying to you guys about football, and I recently just traveled the province and went to every zone. And I also talked to the real guys sitting in Greenwood. And I also am constantly working with the salmon arm people, finding out what's going on there. We shouldn't even worry about what anybody else is doing. It's what we are doing every day. Inclusive football is where it all begins. The enthusiasm, what we're doing. I don't think it's about now looking for BCCFA, BC Lions, or BCPFA. It really starts from our association and our club in our community. One of the other things is we're not driving down the street anymore and looking at signs of register for football. We're in a new age. Marketing is very different. We have to be excited. We've got to take moments and utilize them. When I went around the province right now, I grabbed all the community kids and I took videos and put a face to kids in Kelowna, on the island. You know, I'm trying to do my little piece. Everybody has 5 or 10 minutes to tell somebody about football. It comes down to, we're in a place, and I mean, those of you who know me, we either have football or we don't have football. And so you can either right now be proactive and start thinking about the way football, you know, if you love the game so much, if that's your commitment to the game, then what are we going to do to keep the ball up in the air there? Or are we going to just say it's 12 or 9 and die? I'm a 12-man girl. That's what I want. That's where I'm going for. That's where I would like to see us again. I don't do it hardly anything but 12-man. That's who I am. That's my brand. But at this point, rather than lose it completely and never bounce back, we've got to bring more people into the game. And so I think there's a solution here, and that solution is we look to ourselves and say, if every one of us who loves the game so much and has an opinion on the game, we need to hustle. And so when it comes to that 6-man situation, I was in contact. The Bccfa will be talking to somebody in Saskatchewan. Not because they're going to tell us what to do or whatnot. We need to keep our minds open. We need to see what's out there and what's working in other provinces. And the particular gentleman we're speaking with, he went all the way to play, 6-man at high school. He went to university. He's played in the CFL. He and himself at 6-man, he went all the way. That's inspirational. We need to tell the story of the boys and girls that are on field. That's what we need to do right now. So that way, and everybody's not looking at the road signs, everybody's looking at social media. I've put out more times than not, I've reached out to everybody in this province for help. I do to help other people in other provinces. Utilize the people who are here to help you. But, like I said yesterday, make sure we all, step up to the game before we point fingers. So anyways, I'm here to help you, but yes, you know what? Let's just hustle, everybody.
That was pretty kind.
Yes.
I just have one question. I'm going to start this off with, flag is fantastic. I had, for 2019, 16 kids with helmets on playing at contact football, as we call it now. Flag is the only reason I still have an organization. But I just want to key on your report, even what we've all been throwing this word around. And the reason most of us love football, it's inclusive. And now when I hear that word, it means all kids. That's what makes football better than any other sport. Every type of kid has a position. That is not true in flag football. 5-man flag football, as great as it is not an all-inclusive sport. And we can all say, yeah, we can put the kids out here, but you take a Pee-wee team and you take the 5 offensive linemen and you put them up against the quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs, it's probably not going to be a very close game. It is not a game built for every kid's skill set. It's the same knock when we try to sell football to other families that we use against against hockey and lacrosse. I love spring flag, but we need to find a way, and I believe, to make it inclusive. We like to say we want everything to be inclusive. I heard inclusive probably about 50 times before I started to talk, and that's my one struggle with flag. And it is a struggle when we talk about converting. I love the 6-man. I love the idea of being able to get more kids playing fall, contact football, because it makes it inclusive again. But these spring flag numbers are great. We have 2,000 kids, but it doesn't necessarily generate to the inclusive that we want to promote. It's not as inclusive as fall or as contact football. Okay. It's just not.
Absolutely. Okay, Matt, go ahead.
All right, and I'm going to disagree with you right out of the gate, because it's not that it's not inclusive, it's that coaches that only are focused on winning don't want to include them, right? When we started flag out in Abbotsford, we started playing with these guys in the flag, we had 2 teams, and I can guarantee you, out of the 10 kids on each team, 6 of them were linemen, because they wanted to run with the ball, they wanted to catch the ball. Yeah. So when you focus on that championship medal, you leave kids behind. So it's not. So it's not about the game isn't inclusive. It's who's running the game is not including them.
Just before I get to you, when we started the flag, the purpose of the flag was to get kids together so that they would have an opportunity to assess themselves against other teams. And the important thing is I kept telling individual coaches that you want to bring those people that never touch the ball into a position where they get to touch the ball. Because I'll give you an example. When I coached at university, we had to do sprints. You get the lineman. You want to do sprints. Of course you get no. I said, you know what? These two quarterbacks need to work their arm. Will you guys run pass patterns for me? All day. Different concept. And what happens is that there are only 5 winners at the Bccfa championship. But all the other kids are getting a positive experience. There's been all kinds of teams. And again, these are anecdotal things that I see where coaches have put together groups of bigger kids and they just go out there and play. If they win, they win. If they don't win, they don't win. They're not going to win the national championship.
When you're talking about, in a lot of those circumstances, you're talking about kids who are already playing contact football, who can now they already love football, and now they get a chance to play with the ball. But it's getting the new kids out of the field. When the kid rides his bike past the flag football field, he doesn't see himself necessarily represented as necessarily as competitive as he does when he rides by a contact field. But I'm talking about specifically getting new kids. I'm getting tons of new kids out, but most of them aren't going to be playing O-line for my JP team anytime soon.
Well, all I can say is that the skill sets, and I think there's a lot of people up here who have verified over the years, I can tell you, when you look at a field, you know whether it's a lineman or a receiver or a quarterback, you know instantly whether they play flag or not. You know how they know their position on the field, they do a lot of stuff. And again, I'm positive, I'm trying to get inclusiveness, and it's the issue of, again, it comes back to what's your objective, what's your goal, what's your philosophy, and to get these kids an opportunity to go and compete with a whole bunch of other kids is the real purpose of it, because they get to see what's out there, and they go, hey, we're not just in this one little spot over here, there's all these teams out there, and I do know one kid who was an offensive guard, that if he didn't play flag, when he graduated, and I know it's from a non-member, but he graduated from the high school team, he was the best tight end on the field. And all the kids were playing. And it was, he said, came out and said, it's because of flag. I was an old guard. So I'd like to end it at that point.
I was just going to make another point. Our best recruiting tool for tackle football is the kids. Contact, sorry. But our best recruiting tool is the kids. So when you get those O-line, D-line guys out there, and you have 2 or 3 of them on a flag team, and they're being included by the team, and they're having a blast, they're saying to their friends, who will be O-line and D-line, I got to do this at flag, and then I got to come and smack the little scrawny guys around and in contact, right? And they are always going to be our biggest recruiting tool. They have a positive experience, they are included, they get to do the stuff outside of just fighting in the trenches, then they're going to have a more positive experience. They're going to give that to their friends, and you're going to see your numbers go up.
Yuri, last one.
Just a comment. I agree with the gentleman here. Flags, spring flag is not inclusive. It's stacked up, recruited by the coaches to compete in win championships. If you really want to make that grow, he said how many kids play football?
2,000.
2,000, you'll have 4,000 kids playing spring flag if you take the championship out and make it all inclusive. There are no linemen, very few linemen are being recruited to play spring flag. All coaches going down looking for receivers and quarterbacks to win the championship. And we have problem opening registration. Coaches are saying, team put together. So it seems like that's the overall perception out there. Spring flag is to go to the championship in Kelowna, and kids are recruited based on their skill set, not inclusive at all.
But and once again, that was my point earlier, is it's not a flag football program or problem. It's a coaching problem.
No, it's the Bernard that you shaking at the coaches. the carrot is shaking for winning championship. You take that carrot away, you open it up, more people to play football.
But that falls on us as leaders of our organizations, right? Is that coaches don't come in saying, I've got my team already. Coaches come in and get handed a list of players from my team, in my club, and that's their team. And my coaches know that. So they go out there and then they fight to make that team better. And that team includes players of all body types, right? And that falls on us as the administrators, that we don't give in to the coaches' demands. The coaches do what we want for our club.
You're not paying the coaches, they are volunteering, they're choosing, if they're gonna spend time off regular football season and go to Corona at their expense, they want to recruit the team, so they go after this carrot that our league is shaking at them.
They find another volunteer.
That's the reality, okay, I understand.
Okay, one more, and this is the last one.
There is a quick solution to it, and that would be tiering it. And because we all know that there's all these select teams. But if we actually use the spring flag season, because we don't really use it, right? Because it doesn't actually qualify you for anything. If we used it and tiered it, that would be it. Because then all those select teams would be at a tier 1. These guys would be at tier 2. And these would be a tier 3.
Okay, this comes up I've been doing, this is my 11th year. And every year this comes up, we tier. After week 1, you were tiered in ours.
But it doesn't qualify you for the provincials that way.
Okay,
But I mean, that's only one league.
Yes.
So how do we tier the other leagues?
Well, they would be tiered as well in their own leagues, right?
But how do you tier all 5? Sorry. How do you tier all 5 zones?
It's not perfect.
But what I do is, when I do that, I talk to the other 4 zones. And if the other 4 zones are not telling me the truth, it's really tough to tier them, right?
Okay, now that that's on the table, the most important thing that we're gonna do, we're gonna take a break for lunch. We'll do 20 minutes, so the smokers can smoke, you can drink, you can eat, and
It was so funny for me this year when we were watching, every time we were watching games on TV. And it was funny, the first game that I saw Gavin in, and I'm like, I know that. All referees said Gavin the line and took off the last couple of games. And so we're watching the game. That's always I haven't been saying
Which is a valid I know that's what
Okay.
Thanks, Frankie.
That's what I mean, so make sure you.
Yeah, so I'll send an email to Joe Gluska that I think that we should have a big man competition down there. Because we'll celebrate the big men. The big man flag. At the tournament, don't you think so?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
Our coach wasn't controlling it at all.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now that we got fueled up and we're all ready for the rest of the meeting, we're fortunately done with that, rather verbose president, and now we're moving on to the vice president.
Who hopefully will be significantly less verbose than President was.
Hey, I used it first.
Everything, and that is the very little I know I learned from Joe. So my report is in the document in front of you, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time regurgitating, other than I'm not quite as long in the tooth as the two Joes in the room, so I've only been involved in football since the 90s. But of course, as the 12-man commissioner, of course, one of the significant events of note for me last year was the fact that for the first time since I've been involved in football, we did not have a 12-man champion at the midget or bantam division. And I think this speaks to Joe's observation about the changes in the game. And I think, certainly over the years, I remember when my kids first started playing, there were 12-man teams. In fact, within associations, you had as many as 4 junior bantam teams, 4 pee-wee teams, 2 bantam teams. I don't think I've ever seen more than a single midget team within a division, but it was fairly healthy in terms of numbers. And so we've seen a transition, not so much in the game as much as in the marketplace. And I think we have to recognize that the game is a safer game than it was when my kids started playing in the 90s. There's no question about that. But we also have to recognize that people's perceptions, people's needs, and expectations also change. And that's not just with respect to football, it's respect to all sports. And in fact, the fastest growing sport in North America, if you consider this a sport, is e-games. And so kids that actually sit and play video games, that have other kids sit and watch them play. And that is apparently the fastest growing sport in North America. So it tells you a lot about the sort of societal change that we're having to grapple with. That being said, I think there's still a significant opportunity in terms of football, whether it be 6-man, 9-man, 12-man, or flag, to have kids out in the field participating. And I think the other important thing that we forget is that there's a significant social aspect of football that we perhaps don't necessarily promote. But I think, and maybe it's true of all sports generally, but I certainly think with my experience, I've had kids play soccer, lacrosse, football, basketball. Their football relationships are the ones that really endure. And I think there's something there that perhaps we can capitalize on. But I think first and foremost, we have to recognize that we are operating in a very different environment. And if we don't, then, like the dinosaurs, we're not going to be around for very much longer. The other highlight I mentioned in my report was the fact that we are actually now back at McLeod Athletic Park. We've had to make alternative location choices for the previous 2 years, but we finally seem to have resolved the impasse with the Township of Langley. And so we were back there for the first time, I think, in 3 years, and hopefully we'll be back there again next year. So other than that, are there any questions? Yes?
And we have a player mandate telling people how to get a field at the time, but I'll show up to the high school football game on the island and go watch it, and they'll throw a partial for one instance. Their JV team had 16 kids on their team, they're playing 11-man football, they're battling, and then in one league they have 24 players to play 12-man, and then the other league it's 18, but we argue with 18. So maybe us changing it or...
Yeah, and so again, as we've discussed earlier today, we have no control over what high school football does. They are outside of Football Canada, outside of the BCPFA, and so they don't have to meet any of the mandatory requirements that our members need to meet.
And that says these players, because isn't it kind of legal?
Well, no. So in terms of how many players you need to have on your rosters, that I think is primarily set at the zone level. So each zone, the VMFL, VCFL, Bccfa, they determine what the requirements are for the rosters within their zones. As far as the provincial championship goes, doesn't matter. Whatever teams. Okay. Sorry.
That's a try to be inclusive.
Set a number for each level.
Do we? For provincial.
For provincials
For
only.
provincials. But as far as zone play goes, the local association set these numbers.
That's correct.
So I mean, I'm just thinking, the high school will play 11 man with 16 guys, so maybe, I know we're trying to be all inclusive and some guys want to play 12 man, but if you have 18 kids want to play 12 man, you can't, because your league says no. Maybe you could look at.
That's something you should take up with your,
With your zone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I've got a question. I was the 12-man commissioner for the VFL last year. How many zones play 12-man at the junior bantam level?
1, 2,
4.
3.
how many zones?
Yeah.
3.
3 zone players?
3.
So, yeah, no, I'm done. That's just everybody wants to go back. So, yeah, you're done with
Okay, next is the island president report. Murray Clark.
I'll try to lower the verbose level even further. I didn't realize I had to include how many decades I've been involved as well, but I will. This is my 5th decade as well. Just to show that I'm a dinosaur as well, but basically I'll keep it short. At Bccfa last year we increased our number of players by 4%, and this year we've had a staggering increase in the number of players. Almost every one of our teams has 24 players or more. We're going to have at least 24 teams in our spring league, which starts up in 2 weeks. And so the majority of teams are going to be playing 12-man ball. So rather than complain about kids playing video games, we've just gone out there and recruited them. And we continue to run the largest contact football league in the country for the spring. We also conducted 4 safe contact clinics. It'd be great if we could get some level 2 clinics over on the island as well to carry on. And I also personally put on 4 officiating clinics. We've recruited 28 new officials last year. This is outside BCFA. This is just to be officiating our Bccfa games. And then I send them along off to BCFA when we're done with them. Now we're looking forward to a good season ahead. We have, in case the Lions want to sell any season tickets, we're having our jamboree on the 22nd, and there'll probably be a couple hundred kids playing football there and their parents. So I'll pick up Mike Riley and Rick Campbell at the walk-on booth and bring them if the Lions are out of money. Any questions?
Thank you, Murray. Next on our list. Oh, I was just going to go right to Rooney. Kevin Parks, VMFL president. Chief among chiefs.
No, I don't. Okay. I don't have a lot to say, like always. I'm really shy when it comes to this stuff. So a couple of years ago, we had, I'll just call it a big failure at the VMFL executive, where we had executives quitting because of differences, we'll say. Last season, we had the biggest executive we've had since I've been around, and we had 13 13 executives on our board, and it ran really well. It was probably the best year. It ran the best year. We had everyone doing jobs. You know, I didn't have to go and do 4 or 5 different jobs because we had lots of help. So it was a pleasure having all of them on the board last year. We, our spring flag that everyone knows is growing and growing and growing. Last year, once again, was our biggest year ever. We even had a drop in U16 and U19 divisions, but still grew in all the other divisions. This year, it looks like we're going to grow even more, which is a little scary because, as you know, there's not a lot of grass out there, and there's not a lot of daylight. It ends eventually. So just from the preliminary numbers, it's looking like we might even go 12-hour days, and fingers crossed we don't have to go to 2 days, but the talks are out there already. So yeah, spring flag is growing a lot. Tackle, yes, tackle was down. Tackle was down last year. We tried and tried and tried, but we can only help clubs so much. It's like Shell always says, you know, send me stuff. Let me know what you need to do, and I will do it. And every meeting I have, and the presidents in the room here know, every meeting I say, what do you want me to do? I don't care, I will do it. So if we're not all working together, it's not going to happen. And everyone needs to realize that, not just in this room, but across the province. Because Joe is right. If this doesn't work, there's going to be one person in this room who's going to be Gluska all by himself, because none of us are going to be around. Yeah. So the other thing is we had an extreme decline in cheerleading last year. I don't know what happened. I don't know where they all went, because when I first came into football, I'm not as old as some of the guys at the table, but I've been in the VMFL for 16 years now, and I remember when I first started, the cheerleaders ran the associations, and I'm not kidding. You would be at concession, and cheerleaders had a break at halftime, and the seats parted so that they could all come to concession, and we ran away scared. Now, you don't see them. You know, there's clubs like Surrey that keep it going, but we have a new cheer coordinator on the executive this year, and she is gung-ho to go and fix this, because I see it at all fields that you have your little brother or little sister out there on the sideline that are cheering for you. So, you know, we need to get pom-poms in their hands and get it out there. We almost canceled our cheerleading competition this year. We didn't have enough clubs, and then we invited Bccfa clubs to come over, which was awesome. We've been trying to do this for years, and no pushback from the Bccfa at all on it. It was all pushback from VMFL to not have them, and I put the word out this year, and I said, I don't care who complains, I want the Bccfa to come, and it was great, because yeah, there's a lot of rumors out there that Kevin just doesn't care about that, so you can squash all those right now. And so we called it a cheer fest, and it was awesome. It was really good. We even had, I hope I get the club right, there was 2 or 3 girls from Mission Red? Mission? And it was awesome to see that. They were so nervous, and then when it went up to do their routine, it was so cool to see. I loved it. So hopefully we can fix that this year. Now, what our mandate is this year, and it's like Gluska drills in our head, we need to grow football. So once again, I have a great executive behind me and lots of people who wants to do lots of different jobs. So like I said, I will end it like this, and I will say it again, and I'll say it 1,000,000 times. If you need me to do something, you have to ask. I am not going to go beg you for stuff. Come and see me, and I will make it happen. I can work with Shell on blasting stuff out. Carrie's stepped away from being secretary to spend more time on other things like Spring Flag and social media. We have lots we can do. I'm also, you heard me drill Tyler today. Just on a personal note, BC Lions is one of my clients, so I was in their office the other day, And it turned from a work meeting into a community football meeting because everyone was in their offices and I had them trapped. So, you know, poor Jamie. So that's about all I got. No questions? Perfect.
I'm glad that Kevin announced that Kerry has some free time because I've got several committees that he said you had free time. Hey. And now we have Dave Rooney, VCFL president.
Yeah, my report's in the folder as well in front of you. I'm not going to go into too much of it. I really want to talk briefly about our spring tackle. It was the first year we introduced spring contact football at the bantam and midget levels, and it was actually fairly successful for basically coming out of nothing and us scrambling really quickly to get rules in place, field allocations. It worked really well. The LMFRA was fantastic at not skipping a beat officiating our games. We did have some VMFL teams involved as well, which was excellent. Overall this year, our partnership with the VMFL has been awesome. I just got to say thank you to Kevin, both in our fall integrated at the bantam and midget levels 9-man, and then having some of your Adam teams come play contact football with us. It has been great because at the end of the day, we saw a lot of kids on the field that may not have had an opportunity to. We ended up with just over 300 kids playing spring tackle last year. Those are 300 kids that may have played flag, but we're definitely not going to play contact football if we didn't give them that opportunity to. So all in all, our numbers were up overall last year using those numbers from spring. A lot of those spring tackle players, contact players, did transition over to our fall program. So we did have a midget team in Ridge for the first time in, I don't know, 6 years. And we did have a couple of other midget teams in our division. So I think it worked really well. One example I have to give is we need to work with our high school partners as well if we're going to grow football outside of just the regular fall. They play there or they play here. Langley Senior Secondary was a team that didn't win a single game in 2018. They were struggling. They worked with North Langley football in our spring program. Coaches were involved, their players were involved, and Langley Senior Secondary played at BC Place this past fall. 1 year difference, and they credited a lot of it with the being able to play in the spring, run those same drills, formations, be game ready by the time high school started, right? So it's something we can all look at in the future. And other than that, I'll just wrap it up with the VCFL is still a very happy, tight-knit family. We are always looking at growing the game, and overall, we're not opposed to any changes that are coming down the pipe as long as we're getting kids on the field. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Okay, Dean Kennedy, SIFC president. His report's on page 51. Unfortunately, his boss called him into work because it's tax season, and he couldn't be here today. So his report's there. So we go right to Carly Krebs, Prince George, and the North.
So not really much to report. We had a really good full board last year. We had our AGM, so we are only down to 6 now. We went from flag numbers, we went from 54 kids last year to 105 players in flag this year. Tackle contact was down from 73 to 65 this last year. That we have been doing 6-man contact for 2 seasons now. We don't, Vanderhoof no longer is doing an Adams division, just JV and Pee Wee. So we just decided to make it 6-man for the younger guys so that they can have as many games as we can get for them. And then in flag, we actually opened up flag to 5 and 7 years old. It's just kind of a little fun little thing that they do just for an hour of practice. It's just kind of getting them skills and kind of loving the game. Biggest problem we're facing right now is the lack of board members, but also the lack of coaches. We've been advertising and pushing it out, and we just don't have much stepping up to coach. So that's our biggest battle. We can't really push for kids when we don't have anybody to coach them. So that's about it.
And thanks for making the trip down today to the AGM. Now, the next in our list is Les Caldwell, the LMFRA president.
By report, we have starting a mentoring program. It's going to be introducing the newer officials, and they're going to be paired up with a senior official, so to make it a little easier for them to get involved in the game. And we're going to need the coach's help on that too. You know, if you have a problem with the individual on the sideline, approach a senior member of the crew. Don't get on that boy too much. But the most important thing I want to bring up today is LMFRA has an ongoing issue with WorkSafe BC. We have been caught by WorkSafe BC as we issue checks to our members. Now, I don't know how you guys pay your flag football referees, but if you're issuing checks, you might get caught by WorkSafe BC as well. There is no way in my mind, and anybody's mind in this room, that a referee is an employee of LMFRA or any association. But WorkSafe BC has lumped us in as an employer because we issued checks. And basically, folks, we're needing help. We've been assessed 3 years, 2016, 2017, 2018, and also we have a 2019 payment to make as well. So it's money that we basically don't have because we keep a tight ship on what we spend, and if we have a little bit extra, we take off insurance fees and stuff like that from our members. So if anybody has any suggestions as to how WorkSafe BC has made LMFRA an employer, or how LMFRA can get out from under this big rock that WorkSafe has put us under, let us know. We really need help on this.
Have you actually
We have
a legal opinion?
We have appealed the decision at WorkSafe BC, and we have appealed the decision that they have made as an employer, and we haven't heard anything back. I was told that WorkSafe BC has up to 150 days. Also, on regard appealing as the employer, we were late on the application on that, so we have to make a further application to get a deferment of that date and then make another application to have the decision changed.
But actually, have you sought an independent legal opinion on?
I have phoned WorkSafe BC about 10 times in the last 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, WorkSafe isn't going to tell you anything other than what they've decided. So maybe, I don't know, I know that I believe through the sport or some of those organizations, there should be a mechanism for them to provide some sort of assistance to sports-related organizations that run into legal type issues like this one, because I think that's what it is. So I think it's probably most important for you to actually get a legal opinion as opposed to going back over to CAPC and just appealing, because I think, well, we know what the genesis of this is one of the members unfortunately made at least to be claim. So that is what triggered this, but they should not have accepted actually. So.
Well, we were kind of expecting that from Bccfa or Bccfa, because we were told back early December, November 30th actually, that don't worry about it, don't be looked after. Nothing happened.
I'll follow that up with the Bccfa, because when I spoke to them the last time, and this would have been early December, is that they were aware of the issue because they were brought into it, and they were looking at their legal counsel to determine what it is, because you, the LMFRA, being a member of the Bccfa, which is a member of them, is the umbrella issue covers us all. And their question goes back to the issue of nonprofit and no contract, and everybody's contract is not a contract worker, and at the end of the day, they have a issue. But I'll follow that up with them. I've written it down.
So just to
Because it seems similar kind of incident happened at one of the fields where the referee had a debate himself during the game. And I think there was some discussion regarding the CBC coverage for that. And I don't know how they resolved it. Perhaps they could share the information of the interest.
So we'll get the information through Bccfa concerning soccer.
Joe,
Yeah.
I gave all the information to Frank in January.
Okay.
Okay? All the documentation, I gave it to Frank in January, and Frank was he gave it to the executive director of Bccfa.
Yep.
And he was going to get in touch with you. He didn't want to do anything because I was down here on the totem pole and you were up here, sort of thing, right?
Okay.
And once again, nothing happened.
Okay. And I know probably if he was supposed to get in touch with me, and I was hard to reach because I was out of the country for February.
To me, this is the tip of the iceberg. It cost us $2,000 and we're a 50, 60 member group. That's going back 3 years. So you can imagine the size of other organizations in the province. Plus, if you get a real zealous person at WorkSafe BC, it's going to be, hell's going to rain down on everybody.
Okay. Again, I've written it down here. I'm going to follow up with the Bccfa. I'll follow up with Keith as well on the information. And as I said, that being out of the country for all of February, he wouldn't have got me. Okay, now next on our list, sorry, one more question?
Just for clarification, our insurance is technically supposed to cover this, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So you're just going to look into it and let us all know how it plays out?
Yes.
Okay.
The injured official did receive his reimbursement from CFOA, which we're insured for on field. But WorkSafe BC is a whole other world.
Okay, the next on our list is our 9-man contact coordinator, Lisa Warner.
What's up, peeps? So my report is in your book. You can all read. I'm assuming because you've all read the handbook a couple hundred times and rule book too. So that being said, every year we run into a handful of complaints about the format of the 9-man championships in Kamloops. Generally from the teams that are first after the mini games that then end up losing the shootout. 99% of the time that's where the complaints come from. Those of you that know me know my response. Don't complain to me, but I will accept constructive criticism. I've received very few constructive criticism emails. That being said, we put it forward to the zones last year for suggestions of how to alter the format of the 9-man championships as it grows, as more zones are participating, and as things move forward. The SIFC put forth 3 or 4 proposals. No other zone submitted a proposal. We did end up rejecting, is kind of a harsh word, but I like it, all of the SIFC proposals based on the fact that it was not financially, none of the proposals would have been financially viable for parents or clubs. They all involved an extra travel, a rotating playoff schedule, extra weekends, which means more hotels, and it's a provincial championship. The travel to Kamloops, and the reason it's held in, why we started it in Kamloops, is that it is 6 hours in all directions. Prince George, 6-ish hours. Victoria, 6-ish hours. It was the center point. So you start doing playoffs and playdowns, and you're looking at Victoria having to go to Prince George for a playdown, and then yay, they win, they got to come to Kamloops next weekend. It becomes a cost factor. So after much discussion and much more discussion, it came down to keeping the round robin play mini games. But when we get into the shootout format instead of one and done, we'll do best 2 out of 3. It gives it a little more opportunity. I mean, the poor little Abbotsford Falcon quarterback that 2 years in a row fumbled the ball on his first snap in the shootout 2 years in a row. You know, that now he's got at least another chance because it will be best 2 out of 3. We're going to try that format for 2020, and like everything in this world, it's not set in stone. It's not going to stay that way forever, most likely. We'll look at it after the championship, see how it worked, and make adjustments if we need to, and move forward. That's it. That's all I got. Questions, if you dare?
What's the time frame with your best 2 out of 3? Are you going to play midweek games or?
No. Oh, no. This is championship. This is 1 day. So our round, the shootout format, the best 2 out of, it's just a shootout. Just the shootout is best 2 out of 3. And it'll add approximately, I figure, 10 to 15 minutes to each group.
So it's basically the tie-breaking method?
Yeah. So right now, never mind, I'm not even, with 3 zones participating, I believe it takes us about 3.5 hours. And with 4 zones participating, it's about 4.5 hours. And it would add probably 20-ish minutes onto each of those. Nice long days. That's it. That's all. Great.
Thank you, Lisa. Our 12-man coordinator, Valder Belgrave, his report was already given. And now we go to our flag coordinator, Matt Macri.
Well, thanks, Joe. So the flag provincials this year was awesome again. We had great weather. I ordered that for you guys. It was beautiful. We had about 210 teams competing, 3 beautiful days of football. We were able to, this year, even streamline the process a bit more because it's now our 3rd year running this format where we eliminated the gray games on the Saturday. So we've been able to streamline it. It seems to run a lot smoother. Yeah, it was a good weekend. What we're looking at doing for this year coming up is we've always said that the Bccfa flag provincials runs on the Canadian flag rule book. And then I actually went and looked at the Canadian flag rule book. It is about 90 pages of crap. So what we've done this year, and I've reached out to the different zones that do flag, is we've trimmed down all the 7-on-7 stuff out of there. We've made it just the 5-on-5. We've interjected our unique rules that we have into it, and then we're going to send it out to the clubs. And we should have it, well, I'm supposed to meet with Dean today, but yeah, we're going to talk tomorrow. So early next week, which will be the flag rule book for the BCCFA championship. Not the league play, but for the BCCFA championship. This year we're looking at about 10% growth, so we're hoping we're going to have about 220 teams up there this year. We're going to have some more sunshine. I've already got it on order, and it should all be good.
Any questions?
Oh yeah, thanks, Kevin. Thank you. Actually, I'm going to talk about one thing here. Is one issue that we did have the last provincial championship, and it was a small issue, but it could turn into a big issue, and it was the behavior of the coaches. Okay, I spent 6 weeks after that with my leg in a brace because I had to chase down a couple of coaches I wanted to fight in the parking lot. On the U19 on the Friday, we had one coach losing his mind on the sideline, threatening everybody, challenging us to kick him out. We didn't because we like him, but you know, the coach's behavior has to be a lot better. We've had coach. Yeah, I was talking about you. Okay. All right. We had coaches pulling out rule books and quoting rule books to referees on the field. No, that's not the time nor place. And it'll be when we put it in the rule book, it's going to be very apparent that coaches' behaviors will dictate whether they stay for the weekend or not. Because if I have a 14-year-old boy out there coaching or reffing U10, and I got a 40-year-old man standing over him with a book, screaming at him, right? It's not the 14-year-old boy who's going to be leaving. So we're going to work on one of the complaints from the coaches was the referees. We're going to be working with the referees this year with this rule book in different referee clinics to make sure that they're up to speed on these rules. But we're definitely not going to have them intimidated on the field. If you have an issue, or if your coaches have an issue, there's a commissioner at each field that they can go talk to. Yeah, well, on field 6 anyways. So it's actually, the majority of those commissioners are sitting in this room right now. And we will not hesitate to ask a coach or a parent who can't contain themselves on the sideline where children are playing a game in the sunshine. We'll ask them to leave. So that's what I.
Thank you, Matt. The number of things that are really important, probably 2 issues that came across to me in the last couple of years that we've been running this format, is that 2 individuals that were probably one of the largest critics of flag football came up and told me they had nothing to complain about, and that's what they were complaining about. They had nothing to complain about. I said, thanks for making my day. The other one was quite a humorous one, where a gentleman comes up and he's complaining about something to one of the people who's volunteering. She said that, well, you need to talk to the boss. And he said, where is he? And she pointed to me, and I looked at him, and I go, okay, here we go. And he goes, well, I want to complain. I said, well, who do you want to complain to? And he says, the boss. I said, okay, complain. No, the big boss. I said, you're looking at him. No, the really big boss. I said, you're looking at him. And then he asked me his question. I said, well, you have 3 choices. You can go here, or you can go over there, or you can go home. And he chose to walk away quietly. I said, but again, it's the work of the committee with Matt and Kevin and Carrie that have really streamlined the system down, in my mind, where it's become a lot better. So people are walking away with a lot more positive experience, and they're a lot happy about it. And now it's a weekend for them. They come up with their barbecues. They're doing a lot of events. It's a very positive thing for us. Okay, that ends up at the end of flag. Now we have the most important thing and the most important person, the treasurer's report with Cindy. And that's going to be like the major thing for the entire
Not that he's putting any pressure.
No pressure or nothing. So in your books, you guys were just were given the actuals for 2019 and the proposed budget. Kayla has also sent out the actual full report, which is what I'm going off of, which will give you a summary of it. And then we can talk to any questions you might have based off the exact actuals. In the full report, it actually breaks it down to each of the monthly reports that I provided the executive. And it also has the breakdowns of the individual championships, flag championships as well, in that email one. Unfortunately, those didn't make them into your book, so you're reading off of the full list of information. So just to highlight, I still don't know the actual 2019 numbers for the BC Lions revenue for 50/50. We were told it was going to be approximately $4,700. I have not gotten the email to tell me exactly what that number is. And also for the orange helmet, we were told that it'd be approximately $13,000 we would receive for 2019. Which I have yet to receive that email from the BC Lions to confirm what Bccfa's portion is of those. So those are estimates. Once I do get those actual numbers, I will send an email to Kayla that can get that sent out to all the clubs so that they know what we actually got from the BC Lions in those 2 categories. In regards to our proposed budget, and to what we actually spent, we're actually under budget by just under $4,000. So I kept the purse strings a little tight, I think, for the membership. We took in about $4,239, and we spent $160 for this year in expenses. So I think we're doing very, very well. A lot of that revenue does come from the flag. And hopefully next year we'll be able to give you a report of numbers in that based off of who registered for flag and who registered for contact. But right now that we can't tell you what those numbers actually are because we have Island Place spring tackle, Mainland Place spring tag, contact. The Bccfa also plays spring contact. So we can't determine where the money is generated from esports desk to which category, either contact or flag. So the numbers that you see on the revenue coming in from esports desk is a total registration number. So with that said, if we want to, I don't want to go line by line through the actuals and that. If anybody has any questions from the 2019 budget to the 2019 actuals, I'll be happy to answer them for you. Yes.
Under flag championships.
Yes.
Nationals, Bccfa. So we've gone from an actual of 12,000 in 2019, and that's gone down to 10,000.
That is because at one of the meetings throughout the year, we, just before the national thing was in May meeting, we opted, because we had some extra money, to pay a little bit more for the teams that were going to nationals because there was only 3 teams as to opposed 4 teams. So right now, normally we would have the 10,000 there for the 4 teams. So that's why it was higher. It's because the actual was higher is because we voted to pay $4,000 per team going to nationals because there was only 3 instead of paying, I think it was $2,500 for 4 teams. Any other questions? Going once, going twice. Sold. So now we are moving on to the proposed budget for 2020. From what you guys had asked for last year, I had made sure that line items were broken out for flag championships, so that you knew what we were spending money on, like broadcasting, like officials, like the volunteer food, like volunteer hotels, the photographers. Everything's broken down there. That's why you see more line items this year than you did last year. Is because I wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of everything that we were spending your money on because that's what you had asked. So right now, the proposed budget for 2019 is $180,950. And the proposed income coming in, or revenue, is $195,720, which would give us a surplus of just under $15,000 if we did stay within this budget. I did inflate because cost of gas is going up, hotels are going up, we're getting more volunteers out at the flag, so those costs are going to go up. We get more referees coming up for flag. So I did inflate some of the costs to take into consideration for that. Nothing was taken into consideration with possible hits to the financial markets or anything like that. It was just based off of volunteers and kind of where we stood from 2019 actuals and adding maybe 100 or 200 more for inflation rates. So based off of the proposed budget for 2020, does anybody have any questions?
Only because I don't know. In the flag championship, it says parking.
Oh, parking is for the parking attendants, the security people.
Thank you.
And the barricades and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Now
So I will clarify that line to be parking / attendance. Traffic control.
Traffic control. The reason I know is that the city has demanded that we have that, so I was a little concerned. I said, we don't pay parking. And then I realized that now it's the parking attendants. And because they work Saturdays, is the issue, and there's only one company that'll work for that many hours for us. This is what the bill is.
Are you anticipating any additional expenses because of COVID?
No, that was not taken into consideration when I did my report at the beginning of January, before COVID hit.
Flag is non-contact, there shouldn't be any spread.
Mr. Rooney pointed out that flag was non-contact, so there shouldn't be any spread.
In the back?
I see the trainer clinics, where are those posted? Because I haven't seen one yet.
Trainer clinics, we haven't had any. I know Cowichan Football tried to have a trainers clinic in March of I think it was September of last year, because I live on the island, just so you people know. So I did try to get into that trainers clinic just so that I could see what it was about and everything else. But it was the trainers for your associations had to pay them, and I think it was $20 to attend it, or $60 or something. So we haven't had any trainers clinics that I am aware of. But I did budget for it just in case it did come up, so that we didn't have any money if the membership needed to have a trainers clinic or something like that. At least we had some money budgeted for it. And same with the referee clinics. I don't think I've ever had a bill for a referee clinic. So, but just making sure that those are still there just in case they do come up going forward. Yes, Felder.
So under general revenues, we have registration fees, tackle, flag.
Yes.
I'm assuming that so that's an all-encompassing number. Is it possible to break that down further into?
Hopefully next year, we're trying to, me and Kayla have a meeting with the gentleman through eSports Desk to see if we can put in a drop-down menu that says you're registering for spring flag, or you're registering for spring contact, or fall contact. And then we'll be able to hopefully provide you under general revenue, a flag amount, and then a tackle amount. And the tackle amount will be, or contact, will include both the spring guys and the fall guys. Yes.
Just on that one, we probably want the flag drop down for fall. We run the type program for the flag.
Okay.
That's flag and our Atom.
Good. I did not know we
It's
had.
flag as well too. So, I mean, that's most of all my registration numbers. Right
Okay.
Now, so.
Perfect.
Okay. Oh, perfect.
So they include all of the breakdowns,
Okay.
including fall flag as well.
And then the only other one.
Tackle,
So just with the bump in revenue, most of it's just because you don't have the actuals for the 50-50 in Orange Helmet for 2019?
That is correct.
So we'd be more, once you get that actual number, that 3,000 will go up and be.
Yeah.
Jump in revenue and it was.
Yeah, like I said, we were told we would probably get about $4,700 for 2019. So I figured, well, we'll probably get maybe 500. We usually don't get those actual estimated amounts until after the Orange Helmet Awards. We get an estimate of. No, the total. We're always we're always a year behind. So 2021, I'll be reporting on the actuals and an estimate for 2020 and then 2021.
Perfect. So shouldn't we be budgeting and reporting those for the year they're received, not the year the events are held? So if we're not receiving 2019s until 2020, that should be in 2020s, not 2019s.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
So I guess I need to change that line item then.
Well, you've kind of done it because you were expecting 4,700.
4,713.
So that would be where you have 5,000 in 2020.
So that would be the
4,700 and then.
yeah, so that would be the budget for 2020, but your 2019s are what you actually received in 2019.
We don't, the 2019 actuals would have been what we received in 2018 then. Because we get the checks the following year.
This year you got 2018s.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Concerns, comments?
Okay. If we could have a motion to receive the BCCFA 2020 budget adoption.
I got it.
Mr. Rooney put the motion forward. Seconder?
Murray. Mr. Clark.
Murray Clark. Discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Carried.
I'll make that one minor change from parking to traffic control.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us up to, oh, no break. We're just going to rock it through because we'll get out of here early then. Constitutional changes, to date, there were none that came forward. The BCCFA Championships dates for 12-man, 9-man, and flag. It'll be at Langley. And again, I'd like to thank Valder for all the hard work he did with the City of Langley to be able to, Township of Langley, to be able to get our contract and everything cleaned up with them so that we were able to move forward. With that venue, it will be December 6th, 2020. 9-man will be in Kamloops, Saturday, November 21st, Sunday, November 22nd, 2020. The flag is in Kelowna, June 12th, 13th, and 14th, 2020. Game times to be announced. Player eligibility, again, member in good standing and proof of primary insurance. Member in good standing means basically that he doesn't owe anything. He has no equipment outstanding with any other of your clubs, because that was our part of the thing we wrote into our operating rules, that if he owes equipment to another club, he is ineligible until that material is being given. And again, we don't have boundaries, etc., within our association. Club eligibility, member in good standing. You paid all your fees, including the membership to BCCFA via online. And again, the reason why we went to online was to make the system a smoother process so parents knew exactly where their money was going. When the club took their money, the insurance took their money, associations take their money, like everybody else is operating online. Outside of that, are there any questions concerning that information? Perfect.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Motion to. Second.
That hasn't.
All in favor? Can I just?
No. The motion to adjourn takes precedence over everything. It doesn't need a seconder, but there was questions.
It's a quick request, actually. You're all, we need more strike people on the field, and we are getting an aging population. So in all your coaches meeting and everything you do, could you talk recruitment? Yes, sir. We need more, and with the advent of more flag and more spring and everything, I know we're not officially involved in it, but we're being asked to. We need more strikes. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn. Second it.
It doesn't need a seconder. Okay, thank you very much for attending. And look at that, 10-3.
Before you leave, please make sure you have something to eat or take something with